Hi, this is what you missed on Tuesday, February 19th and Wednesday, February 20th. We did lesson 2, filling in the backstory. So today I want to teach you that as we read historical fiction, that it's important to understand what was happening in the real world historical event, because that helps us understand the characters and events in our novels better. So we're going to focus a little bit on not just the story, but the historical event behind the story. So let's remember what we're doing in this unit, the work that we're doing as we go through reading these historical fiction novels. You're reading with the guiding questions in mind, and you're taking notes in your reader's notebook with those guiding questions guiding you. So far in lesson 1, the 2 questions that I had you write in your reader's notebook. So if you don't have these written down yet, open your reader's notebook and write these down. 1 is, what kind of person is the protagonist? 2, what's going on in the story? And that's when we talked about character and conflict. And if you're like, I don't remember that, then go back to lesson 1 and watch that video. So we're taking notes while we're reading. We're taking notes that lead us to know what kind of person is that character, what's going on in the story, and then the other guiding questions as we do as we continue. You'll get 2 more today. But that character, like what kind of person is that character, that's going to possibly change as events happen as we go through the story. So you want to keep taking notes. What more do I know about the character? How is my character changing? You also want to write questions while you're reading. And this is where we really get into, you need to know what's going on in the historical event. If they're talking about Castro and you don't know who that is, but it's a big deal that his picture is everywhere, then you need to know why that's a big deal and who is that person, and look that person up. If you don't know why someone's escaping a country, if you don't know what a bard is and you're reading medieval and they're talking about the bards in this time, you don't want to just skip over it. You want to look it up. So we're researching to understand more. We're going to do more research. And here's the thing. I think I kind of started off with, go ahead and just research some things about your time period. Well, that's good. That's fine. But really, as a reader, the times I want to look up stuff are when I'm reading along and I go, I need more information. I don't really understand this situation. I want to know more about the situation that's in my book. So it's much more authentic for you to, as you read, come up with questions and then look up the answers for those. So you want to ask yourself, how does this research make me understand more about my book? So in class, in your groups, folders were made. When you get back, you'll see the folders that are made. Here are 2 more questions to add to your reader's notebook. So now that you have it open and you've made sure you have questions 1 and 2, here's questions 3 and 4, or here's 2 more questions. What is the historical event? Okay, so before we were like, what's going on in the story? So when I was reading Patrol, what's going on in the story? Well, he's in the jungle firing at an enemy. But when I go, what is the historical event? He's a U.S. soldier fighting in the Vietnam War. See the difference? So you do want to know what your historical event is, and you want to know what it is particularly, specifically to your book. And then how does the story fit into it? So in my case, the whole story is about this U.S. soldier in Vietnam and his experience. So that's how the story will fit into it. But I want to look as I continue to read to see how it brings that historical event alive, and how the historical event, the true things in it, bring my story alive. Okay, so you have an exit slip. If you don't have that, go to Handouts and Links page and click on Exit Slip, the backstory, and you're going to do that exit slip. On the front of that exit slip, it says, what do you already know about the historical event, and what questions do you have? And so for Patrol, I wrote down, I already know it's the Vietnam War. I already know it's taking place in Vietnam. I already know the dates. If you're not sure the dates of yours, you should be able to find out in your book, or you can look it up, or it's on that half slip that has all your books on it, listed on it. Each one has a date next to it. That's on the handouts and links page if you lost that. Okay, then what questions did I have? Who was the war between? Was it between the US and Vietnam? Or were we just helping Vietnam out? Or were we fighting against Vietnam with another country? Or what was the deal? Why was the US there? How bad was it? How did it end? There were so many questions. So I had to do some research. So by starting with what questions do I have, it makes the research more interesting, first of all. And I'm going to find out the things that I feel like I need to find out. So I found out a lot. I'm going to go through this very briefly. Sorry about that big giant square in the bottom. That's because I don't want you to see my face. So I found out that we were helping South Vietnam fight North Vietnam. So it was a civil war, and we were there to help because we didn't want the spread of communism. Because if communism spreads somewhere in the world, it might continue to spread. And so the U.S. felt like we needed to get in there and stop North Vietnam from spreading communism. I looked at maps. Where in the world is Vietnam anyway? I got more information about the U.S.'s involvement. Witnesses. There's eyewitness accounts to it. There's things that are primary sources. And we talked about primary sources and secondary sources, and it sounds like it's something you learned in 6th grade. If you're not familiar with primary sources and secondary sources, Google that, look it up. But witnesses are primary sources. And so, secondary sources are also good. But there was all this information. I started collecting all this information, kind of got down a wormhole of things, and all super interesting. I also found out that there was a lot of people that were protesting the war in the United States, and a lot of people were escaping to Canada, and there were a lot of deferments for people, which meant if you were drafted into the military, meaning the government said you had to go fight, if you were in college, if you were accepted to a college, if you had an injury, there were a lot of ways that you could get out of it. But a lot of those ways required that you had money and you could hire a lawyer and you could hire, you had medical and you could hire a doctor to write a note for you, or you could go to college or whatever it was. And so Fortunate Son is a song that Creedence Clearwater Revival, and it became the anthem for Vietnam. And I was like, why is it the anthem? It was all about that in particular. It was, I'm not the fortunate one that gets to avoid this war. But what I learned from that is that kids were drafted. They didn't want to go. They watched on television as their birthday was announced. And they said, you're going to go fight in a war. So this U.S. soldier in my book maybe got drafted. Maybe he didn't want to be there. He also knew that back at home, a lot of people supported this war. They didn't even think it was a good idea to be there. And here he was having to he was being asked to kill people. And that's his situation. And so a lot of that helped make me understand my character more. So that's why doing this. Oh, now I don't know how to get rid of this box. That's why the research is important. All right, hold on. Let me figure out how to. There we go. Okay, so you want to be specific. What exactly is the conflict your characters are in? Where exactly are they? What exactly are they doing? Who exactly is involved? So there's my answers to that. But if you're doing, where is it? If you're doing World War II, it was a world war. So where exactly were your characters? What group did they belong to? Were they Nazis? Were they Jews? Were they Polish? Were they in a whole different, not in Europe at all? In the 1960s, it's only 10 years. But what conflict are you talking about? Where in the world was it happening? Refugee immigrants, oh my gosh, the timeline is a great span of time. So where are they escaping from? Where are they escaping to? And why are they escaping? That's what's important. Medieval times, that's a long time period. What exact period? Where in Europe? What conflict is being faced? I think we're getting to the end of this video, so there's going to be a part 2. So anyway, be very specific about the time period you're gonna do. Think about that. These questions were written on the folder, on your group folder. Now go to part 2.